Hey Internet, it's your old friend Dominic here with the All-American Casino Guide. Did you know that in 2016, a woman won a $43 million jackpot on a slot machine in a New York-based casino? The worst part of it is the casino refused to pay her winnings, stating that it was all the product of a machine malfunction. She took the case all the way to the state Supreme Court. Pretty crazy, right? Well, it's only one of 5 of the craziest, wildest, and weirdest casino gambling court cases we were able to find. So without further ado, let's get to the list. Number 5, Phil Ivey versus the Crocs Club. Back in 2012, world-famous poker player Phil Ivey decided to sit down and play some baccarat at the world-famous Crocsford Club Casino in Mayfair. Miraculously, Phil won $10 million playing baccarat, but the casino refused to pay out his winnings, stating that he had used an unfair advantage known as edge sorting. Edge sorting is the act of trying to be able to identify cards when they're face down by picking up on subtle differences between the wear patterns on certain cards, noticing marks or scruffs on the edges. It's a lot like playing with a marked deck. Phil Ivey took the casino to court, but they defended themselves, saying that he had used deceptive and dishonest techniques to win at baccarat. Mr. Ivey defended himself by saying that it was just part of his regular gambling superstitions. In 2017, the case was taken all the way to the state Supreme Court, where the final decision was made that his act was actually illegal, as his actions interfered with the game. Unsurprisingly, Mr. Ivey had to pay back all $10 million to the Crocsford Club. I mean, my personal opinion on this is that noticing that certain cards are worn out is not inherently cheating. That's my personal opinion. If the casino did not follow through with its own due diligence to have a new deck that one could not easily edge sort, that's their fault. It's not really the fault of Phil Ivey, who just was capitalizing on what was otherwise a fair situation by noticing something that wasn't necessarily fair. Number 4, Margarita Tavares versus Atlantic City. In the early 2000s, there was a very successful New York-based lawyer named Margarita Tavares, who decided, in her infinite wisdom, to take up gambling and decided to hit up the Atlantic City casinos real hard. Miss Tavares developed a gambling addiction rather quickly, and in fact was known for falling asleep at the tables and spending days at a time inside the casinos. She actually lived off orange juice and candy that was given to her by the staff. Not only was she a gambling addict, but she was also terrible at it. She would lose around $5,000 an hour and lost about $850,000 over the course of 2 years. Tragically, Miss Tavares lost most of her money. In fact, she lost her house and she was even disbarred from the New York State Bar Association. She did the only logical thing a person in that kind of situation would do: sue the casinos. She claimed that they had no right to keep serving her when she was clearly so addicted to gambling. Alas, this story does not have a happy ending. As you would have guessed, the casinos were found to be innocent and non-culpable in their actions, and Miss Tavares was left with nothing. I have to think that this is almost identical to those situations where you hear about people who are overweight suing the fast food restaurants for their larger than average body size. You can't blame people for your decision making. That just is basic human behavior. Number 3, Abdullah versus the Ritz Casino. At number 3, we have another case of somebody losing money and then blaming the casino as if it was their fault for losing the money in the first place. The story goes, one night, Swiss billionaire Abdullah went to the Ritz Casino in London, England, and lost 2 million British pounds in a single evening. Not a very good evening overall. Safa obviously didn't have 2 million pounds on him at the time, so he decided to see if the Ritz would take a check. And when that check bounced higher than Big Ben, the Ritz decided to sue. Mr. Abdullah argued that the casino knew he had a gambling addiction and should have never offered him credit in the first place. He added that the story of him being a billionaire was greatly exaggerated and he wasn't actually that rich. The judge, of course, ruled in the favor of the casino, stating that Mr. Abdullah was the author of his own misfortune and ordered that he make full restitution on the debts he had incurred. This is just a classic other case of rich people thinking that they don't actually have to pay their debts. We actually did a video a while back about gambling losses, and most of the people on that list, I mean all of the people on the list, were insanely rich. It's a reoccurring theme, I guess. It's just like when you're rich, you just don't assume that you should have to pay anybody and that the world owes you something. At number 2, we have one of the most impactful court cases in the history of gambling. Ken Uston was a blackjack player who in the 1970s and 1980s rose to a level of fame, mostly due to his publication of a series of books on card counting and strategy. Uston started off as a spotter on a card counting team. A spotter, if you don't know, is someone who actually observes a particular blackjack table, waiting for the count to be lucrative enough for them to signal the other members of the team to sit down at that particular table and really start playing for some good money. In the late 1970s, Uston started his own card counting team, and they hit the Atlantic City casinos hard. So hard, in fact, that they were actually banned from pretty much all of the Atlantic City-based casinos, which prompted Mr. Uston to take them to court in 1979, stating that you can't ban someone just for being very good at a game. Surprisingly, Uston actually won the case, and the judge declared that nothing Mr. Uston had done was actually a health or safety risk, and so as such, the casino could not bar him from playing. This case put casinos off from banning card counters for a while, and really was a milestone in gambling history. With that said, however, Mr. Uston never again made the crazy fat stacks he made in the 1970s, as casinos began taking measures in order to change the rules of the game or increase the number of decks in the shoe in order to deter or make card counting more difficult. Number 1, Katrina Bookman versus Resorts World Casino. At our number 1 position, we have that infamous slot machine story from our intro. In 2016, a humble US citizen by the name of Katrina Bookman decided to walk into the Resorts World Casino in Queens, New York. There, she decided to try her hands at the Sphinx slot machine. Suddenly and unexpectedly, Miss Bookman hit a $43 million jackpot, one of the largest in US history. The feeling started to sink in that her life was going to change forever. Upon attempting to cash in her $43 million jackpot, she was denied, and the casino stated that her win was only the product of a mechanical malfunction, and instead of offering her the full $43 million jackpot prize, offered her a modest steak dinner and the paltry amount of $2.25. I'm not even kidding you. They offered her $2.25 and a steak dinner. Not surprisingly, Miss Bookman refused the offer and got very, very, very angry. To the point where, as an American, you do the only thing that one can do in that situation. You take their ass to court. Miss Bookman argued that if the machine was in fact faulty, then the casino was not maintaining it properly, and that nobody could have won at that machine properly, which is a violation of state gambling rules. However, the casino successfully defended themselves by stating that the machine has a maximum payout of a few $1,000s, and so a $43 million jackpot prize was somewhere in the realm of impossible. They also stated that every machine in their casino is outfitted with those little plaques on the side, which pretty much give you indications that the machine's electrical glitches can actually nullify your wins. Unfortunately, Miss Bookman was denied her massive $43 million jackpot, and this goes down in history as one of those David and Goliath stories where sadly Goliath wins. But this brings up a great point to always read the small print. It's not there just for your protection, but also for the protection of other people, namely in this case, the casino. Always be aware of all the fine print. So guys, that concludes our list of the 5 craziest casino court cases. Do you know of any court cases that didn't make our list? If so, make sure to leave them as a comment down below. And guys, if you like this format and you want to see more stuff like this in the future, make sure to clickety-clack that like button. And when I say clickety-clack, I mean make sure you get that blue thumb, because if you don't have the blue thumb, you didn't click it. And guys, if you're a true fan, make sure you pound that big red subscribe button and ring a ding ding that notification bell so you'll be informed. My name's Dominic. This has been the All American Casino Guide, wishing you luck and reminding you as always, play responsibly.